Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your show, that time of the day where we gather around our phones, our sets, and those digital devices that separate us from the unknown to look and talk SBL, Souq Business Landscape. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. And the next few minutes that will turn into hours and one, we will talk about stories that are making the headlines, stories that are getting people talking, stories that have caused argument across Nigeria and beyond, development, business, money, loans. You heard me right. And we will put some perspective to it. Then you should also try catching your breath and join us on every platform. Just go to Souq News TV on all social media platforms and join the conversations. We want to hear from you and we want to read what you have to say and your thoughts. I am not here alone, so join me to introduce the best men to work with. When I say the best, I really mean it. On all sides. On my left is the man that went with Christ. Your Excellency, Priye, how are you doing?
Great day to you.
You are shocked?
Yes. Your Excellencies.
Of course, yes.
Okay. It's nice to be with your friend. Once again.
That took him by surprise.
Oh, that took him by surprise. Then I have he's here on an Asian mission and he's packed and loaded.
Yeah. So glad to be here, Mr. Chooks. This will be a good show. I can already feel it.
Definitely. And also join me in also welcoming Olumide. He's here.
Good afternoon, Chooks. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
It looks like a portfolio manager.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
As we speak, Black Rock is learning. So yes, we'll be looking at 4 major stories. Number 1 is heating up. Number 2, public service announcement, and you have to take note. Number 3 is there. Then number 4, we will talk about it. So the first, we're looking at $24 billion loan. I'll get into it later. Then we're looking at the second one, World Bank telling Nigerians that we are having issues with food. And they are giving a particular excuse or particular reason why there is an issue with food, but it's coming from the World Bank, in quotes, so keep it looked. Then we're looking at the public service announcement. You need to get informed. Then we take responsibility for this. Then that has to do with the diphtheria issue. You heard me very well. Diphtheria issue is not an epidemic yet, but it is there as we speak. Imo State is having issues. Lagos State is also having issues. Schools have been shut. So we'll talk about that. Then we will lastly look at the U.S. suspending student visas. For some reason, we'll go into that and more being our gist and our talk and our argument. And we want to also read from you, remember. So let's get this ball going. Nigeria's debt is set to rise sharply as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu seeks National Assembly approval for a $24.14 billion foreign loan. I take it again. National Assembly approval for a $24.14 billion foreign loan, potentially increasing total public debt to over 182 trillion naira. This is in naira by 2026. At the current exchange rate, the proposed borrowing adds 38.24 trillion naira to Nigeria's debt stock, raising investors' concern about fiscal sustainability and exchange rate pressure. Economics warn that rising debt servicing costs, already higher than capital spending, could crowd out investment in infrastructure and social services. They urge the government to ensure the funds are used for productive projects that stimulate economic growth, warning that poor implementation could worsen Nigeria's economic outlook. Business leaders and analysts, including Johnson Chukwu and Muda Yusuf, stress the importance of private sector collaboration and transparency. Without clear returns on borrowed funds, they say Nigeria risks falling into deeper debt trap, eroding investors' confidence and weakening long-term financial stability. Okay, while I catch my breath and we get to swallow what I've read, and I hope we all understood it, let's get to the nitty-gritty of this. $24.14 billion loan from outside Nigeria. My dear fellow learned people,
We are not lawyers.
are we ready? Are we ready for this amount of money coming into this country in debt? We add some more oxygen into this place right now. Are we ready for this?
I think Krumale and I were discussing, Chooks were also discussing current debt at about 182 trillion. You divide that by the population, which is approximately 237 million. You have 766,000. That's each Nigerian should be owing 766,000 currently.
So 1%.
1%.
Is owing 766. If we go by the population of Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Whether rich, poor, underprivileged, yeah, that's approximately how much one person is owing. And it's quite really funny because now, Nigeria's heavy dependence on oil is about 70 to 80%. We have the tax to GDP about 8% to 15%, African average. Then we have debt, Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio, which is about 35 to 40. But the cake here is debt to service revenue ratio is dangerously higher, about 90%.
That was before this particular one.
Before this particular...
For this projection.
Yes, before this. So, I mean, I'm wondering, who are the president's financial advisors? Who are really advising him to take these loans? What... Priye likes loan. We discussed it this morning. Priye says loans are good for the country. So
which side of Priye was saying that? It does. We need to distinguish. Now, there are different packets of Priye.
Priye said loan is good for the country.
That's the packet that discussed with you at that point in time.
So maybe Priye can take us through
before we
the
get
merits
to Priye,
of this.
Let's get to someone that speaks with a whole lot of vibes of the Gen Z generation.
Interesting.
Moyo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I think my major issue here is, Nigeria falling into a debt trap in a way where it's just like a cyclic motion of us taking loans and trying to settle loans. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're always still going to be owing somebody. You know what I mean? So that's the situation that we, especially when he mentioned the debt servicing ratio. It's very high.
90.
It's dangerously high. 90% it's crazy. So that's why
you talking about 90% before this.
Even before this, so imagine the numbers would have gone on by now. And this is why I think it was last week when I was here and we were talking about who advises and stuff like that. And I know that the Ministry of Finance has a role to play in this. Even the Attorney General would advise on the agreement. If there's so many people who come together, there's so many parties. Okay. So I'm like, how can these many people? Why are these many people?
Let me give you more points. Let me give you more points.
Yeah.
And I also need to hear from you before I come to Priye because I know he is representing some very good
pro loans.
We won't go pro loans.
Okay.
Now the government have come out to say that some of this money is going into infrastructure. Let me tell you the way the past president will call it. Then also education. But in specifics, we didn't see those particular specifics. Then let's also remember that. A large chunk of our budget was meant to be funded by loans.
Yes.
Good, but this amount, is it not too big?
It's too much. This money, you can't keep borrowing money when you don't have a sustainable system on ground. Even all this infrastructure, all the loans is enough for infrastructure. Where are we seeing
on paper?
On paper. That's the thing. Are we seeing all the infrastructure? And the thing with infrastructure is that infrastructure pays back. It gives you back. So if we're not seeing the infrastructure, where are we going to get the revenue that will be enough for us to even pay these loans in the first instance? So again, we are pushing it. We are going to enter a debt trap if we continue going through this route.
Are we not in a debt trap already?
Add to what he's saying, future governments, which each government comes in and they'll tell you, oh, this is what we meant. Future governments and generations will inherit this burden of repayment.
Yeah.
Of course, potentially limiting the fiscal flexibility. So, I mean, aren't we looking at all this?
Okay. While we are looking at that, let me come to Priye. Now, our external reserve, as of 2024 December, was 40.19. But as of February 2025, it fell to 39.4 billion. Which means dollars. It would mean something is going down. But now, if we look at the debt servicing, we were servicing as of last year 2-point-something billion, but as a projection from Finch and from our own debt service office that we are going to service debt by 5.2 billion specifics for 2025, although some of that will go into repaying some debt. And now we're looking at picking up $24.14.
Please always include that
Okay,
dollars.
Yeah,
Include that
very
dollars.
important.
$24.14. Now, if we decide to convert that to naira, that is about 36 point thereabout trillion.
About 38 trillion.
38 point something trillion. Priye, shed light.
Educate us.
Thank you very much.
First of all,
educate us.
I need to correct an impression. I'm not pro-loan. I think our conversation this morning was based on aid.
Okay.
Aid, Africa, from aid to investment. And we are looking at sustainable development and growth in the continent of Africa. And the one thing that our conversation, was really centered and focused on was how we were able to utilize or efficiently deploy the loans to the different sectors of the economy. Okay, however, coming back to this, it's, do remember that what governs the budgeting process is that the executive proposes and is at the mercy of the legislative arm of government. And of course, while the legislative arm of government would have questioned some very relevant ministries, departments, and agencies concerning their budget for sectoral purposes, and would have looked through that before they go ahead to approve or to strike out, to make their additions and subtractions, and finally come up with a final document for the government, the executive, to append its signature. So the external borrowing plan forms part of the 2025-2026 borrowing program, and it aims to support key sectors that you've talked about: infrastructure, agriculture, education, water resources, security, and public finance. Yes, there is a great demand by Nigerians, or will I call questioning or probing, that look, do not just mention the ambiguous name of infrastructure, agriculture, public finance, security. Please be project specific. And that is a justifiable argument. However, we also have to know that the biggest economy in the world today, which represents the United States of America, followed by the Republic of China itself, you could see that as big as their economy is, as big as the dominating role they play in global politics, in geopolitics and trade, and in geo-trading among nations, that they are equally owing themselves.
Can we help ourselves with this kind of argument? That when we talk about money, let's not compare us on any indices with them.
Okay.
Their defense budget alone is 90% of the entire African budget.
Yes.
Defense budget alone. So
Yes.
let's also remember that whatever they are owing is a percentage of their external reserve. Of their, okay, it's not, they don't even do external reserve, of their foreign reserve.
Okay.
No, of their internal reserve.
Okay.
But as we speak right now, what we owe is more than our reserve, both local and external.
On external. Yes. Okay, fine. First of all, I think we will need a financial expert and probably someone from the government to defend that. And
Someone
to
from the government?
Yes, to defend that. So, but one thing I'm trying to create, an impression I'm trying to create and bring to the table is this. You just mentioned about the United States and how their budget is running into $900 billion, and if not more. That's the one that is even shown on paper. There are others that is not shown on paper. As big and humongous as that budget, as that economy is, they do not just rely and depend on their IGR as a state. They equally get loans. They have debts that they are servicing. Now, we cannot, nobody in Nigeria should be justifying the government's action of this excessive borrowing. Excessive in the sense that if we were to make comparison, like you rightly said, with our foreign reserve of $40 billion.
39.18.
Of $40 billion.
39.1.
It doesn't look.
That's at February.
It doesn't appear, or it doesn't look logical. It doesn't sound logical.
Okay.
So if we are borrowing that, and we borrow such amount, of what are the contracts or what are the projects that we're going to be tying these loans to. If we tie those loans to projects that are not capital projects, if they are just a recurrent project, of course, it falls back on us because our liability grows larger. And in that particular case, maybe what you be owing the government this time will be more than 700,000 naira. It should be approaching a million naira for you, Moyo.
Why you pointing to
so,
us?
yes, we are at the disadvantage. But the thing is, it is incumbent on the government to make sure that, look, we need to channel these loans to areas that will bring more for the government. Now, do remember, and
For
I
the
would like
government
to,
or for the people?
when I mean for the government is the representative of the people. And the government
How can it be
manages the resources. The government manages the resources on behalf of the people. So it is incumbent, it falls...
Can we look at this other side of it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Now, the president came on board and removed oil subsidy.
Please come again.
I'm trying to run some timeline. When the president came on board, the first he did on the first
Subsidy
day
is gone.
was subsidy is gone. Good. Now, we are looking forward to having gotten some money from that subsidy removal.
Yes.
Which was also told that, hey, the money that was being spent on subsidy, we'll accumulate it and we'll be able to spend it judiciously.
Wisely, judiciously, of course.
So we are looking at how much has been gotten. As we speak, we are not even sure how much has come from subsidy removal that we paid. Now, for those, if you say band A, okay, subsidy was taken off electricity supply. As we speak, we don't know how much government has saved from that.
I think you would be very, very correct if you said subsidy has been partially removed from electricity.
Subsidy has been somehow been removed from electricity. Now, for all this, we are asking ourselves, how much have we gotten? If we can get some transparency or some information, as okay, this is how much we've gotten, this is where it is, this is what we are spending it on. Okay, now we know that oil is not the price at which it was benchmarked on the budget. But okay, how much are we getting? How much? That way, it's easy for government to come out tomorrow and say, this is what it is, this is what we are planning.
Okay, so
like this should be the first time we are seeing a borrowing in one chunk of $24.14 billion. It causes heads to roll and ask questions.
It does. It's sorry, I just want to even point out that as at, was it 2024, Wale Edun, according to reports, came out to say that Nigeria saved $20 billion in subsidy removal.
$20 billion?
Yeah. But my problem here is that the figures are conflicting. Because in the 25th of January, the deputy speaker said we've saved $10 billion.
Okay, now what's the source of
These are Nigerian papers. This is Punch. I'm looking at Guardian. I'm looking at the Cable. I'm looking at Nairametrics as well.
Okay.
So there's a level of
there's not much transparency.
We're not clear in that. However, you rightly said that when subsidy was removed, the government came out and said we're making more money as it is now. But you have to also understand that since the central government removed fuel subsidy, there was also an understanding that Nigerians were told that now we have more money going to the subnational government, which are the state governments. Because if removing fuel subsidy brings more money to the government of the day, then how much we disburse that was shared between the federal, state, and local government, have now increased in size.
Is this
just a moment. No, it's not about going this route. It's so that we are clear about some certain things, that we don't just heap up some form of responsibility on the federal government, on the central government, which to an extent we are correct, but we must also beam our searchlight on the subnational governments. More monies have been going to the subnational governments. Now, the way Nigerians and the way every other person hold the government and the center to be accountable and to be responsible and to give detailed reports on the way and manner it spent every naira and every kobo should also be extended to the subnational government. Let's call the Ogun State government. Let's call the Lagos State government. Let's call the Kaduna State government, the Delta State government. Let's call the Kano State government, the Kebbi State government, the Ondo State government. Let's call them to ground and other subnational government. Now look, it has been said that since the removal of subsidy, that your subventions coming from the federal government has increased. So in that other way, can we also see a reflection of the increase of your income coming from the federal government to reflect on the way you plan the economic development at the state level? Can we also see that reflect in agriculture? Can we also see that reflect in electricity? Okay. Can we see that reflect in other very, very key aspects and sectors of the economy at the state level to attend to the needs of the people? Because these are the levels of government that are even more closer to the people than the central government. So we must also balance the equation on that.
Okay. Now, while we are balancing this equation, let's come back to this 24.14. Yeah. If you are in the National Assembly, will you veto it?
I would definitely veto it. I would, yes.
If you are in the National Assembly, where will you swing?
I'll go with him.
You go with him.
Also, this loan is for the federal government.
Yes.
So if we're pointing the searchlight on federal government and what they use loans to do, I don't think we should even mention the state and local government. Let's focus on the federal government.
I was just referencing the state government because he referenced the removal of fuel subsidy and the amount of money that now accrues to the government. And that amount of money that accrues to the government is being shared between the federal, state, and local government.
Okay. Now, let me get to you. If you are in the National Assembly, what side will you swing?
Okay, so if I were in the National Assembly, a few things will inform where the pendulum of my decision is going to swing. If I am in the opposition political party, if I'm in the opposition... No, it is very, very correct. And for us not to just... These are not questions you can just give yes or no.
Okay, if you are in your position, where will you go?
And I believe you have your premise for choosing that decision. If I'm in the opposition political party, it is my responsibility as an opposition political party to probe and to put eagle eye on every objective, every plan, either financially.
Now that's the responsibility of a person in the House of Assembly.
That's the responsibility of the opposition political
party. The opposition is supposed to be a watchdog.
Yes,
but not to always antagonize.
The opposition, not to antagonize.
Where will you swing?
No, wait a moment. So let me finish. Let me finish. At least one after the other. Okay. So if I'm the opposition, even if I may go against it, but I'm going to make sure I put pen to paper and give reasons why, because I need that subsequent, formally before now, the loans that you have collected, on what have you, the channels that you have drifted on the project, have we achieved that purpose? And of course, the committee on the National Assembly who's been charged with the oversight function to look at that particular sector for which the loan has been directed to will also need to come out to give an account of that. So as an opposition, I'm going to do that. But if it is my political party, then because in my political, if it is my if it is my political party, yes, I'm going to take less than a minute. If it is my political party, yes, please. If it is my political party, then I will have to see, because the principal or the leader of my political party would have, really told Nigerians that this is the line, these are the manifestos, this is the project that we are anchoring to make sure we bring our plan about, in this case, quote unquote, I don't belong to a political party, but in this case, the renewed hope agenda. This is the plan that we have. And because as a good party member, I will want the party to succeed in fulfilling its mandate to Nigerians, I will have to go with Mr. President and go with the party's decision to vote that, make sure that the National Assembly append his signature and give a yay vote to the president and approve it for him to access this loan for the development of our country, for the benefits of Nigerians.
Hold on. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, we've forgotten that there's currency risk at play here, because any further depreciation to the naira would increase the cost of repayment.
Yes.
Are we looking at that too?
And it is putting pressure on our forex. It is putting a lot of pressure on our forex.
You are even going too far, because that has already happened like 4 times in this administration.
Yes.
Upon all the loans we've taken, both those before him and the ones he took. Now, Priya, thank you very much. Now, for everyone out there, and for those in National Assembly, all what we are asking is specifics. Inform us better. Let's know what this money will be used for. Then also, we will also ask the National Assembly, both those in the state, even councillors, let's have a policy and a legislature where if you take a loan before you leave, you repay it.
True.
We'll take a short break, and when we return, SBL will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, it's SBL, and we are still talking now. We're getting straight to the next story. It has to do with food and World Bank. The World Bank has raised concerns about food insecurity in Africa, blaming it in part on poor logistics and trade choices. In a new report titled Transport Connectivity for Food Security in Africa, the bank criticized African countries for importing food from distant markets instead of neighboring nations. It argued that this practice increases food prices and delays access, especially in a region where agricultural output is rising, but many people still cannot afford nutritious meals. The report highlighted that weak transport systems, poor roads, inefficient border processing, and restrictive trade policies contribute to supply chain failures. It found that food takes 4 times longer to reach consumers in sub-Saharan Africa than in Europe, causing up to 36% loss during transit. The bank stressed that logistics, not just food production, must be prioritized to reduce hunger and food waste across the continent, citing a 60% rise in food insecurity populations in the past decade. The bank called for urgent investment in transport infrastructure. It noted that better logistics would encourage regional food trade, improve access to, make African food system more resilient. Through initiatives like its Food Security and Nutrition Action Plan, the bank pledged continued support to help African countries overcome these challenges. Now, this is coming from the World Bank to African nations. Can we entirely blame food wahala, in quotes, on transportation and logistics?
I mean,
if we go by what the World Bank just said, Moyo.
It's a major part of, you know, the value chain. I would also say this, that the WEF Forum, what do we call World Economic Forum, they did say that 70% of Africans make a living from agriculture. So it does make you think. If 70% of Africans are into agriculture, obviously we have the capacity, so to speak, to actually feed ourselves. So that means that there's a breakdown somewhere, and it has to be transportation and logistics, right? There's a lot of food insecurity in Africa for people who are majorly dependent on agriculture. So this is where, obviously, the government needs to come in and, you know, ensure that there's, you know, trade diversification and there's food price stabilization, because, you know, food is expensive in Nigeria for some weird reason. When we produce a lot of food ourselves, we have lands that can produce food.
Food is expensive in Lagos.
Food is expensive in Lagos. It's not?
I said food is expensive in Lagos.
Is that an agreement, or I'm not sure?
I'm just telling you.
It is.
Lagos.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. It's very expensive, you know, and I wonder what...
Nigeria is big. There are places where food is not expensive.
Well, those are those who are involved in subsistence farming.
Okay, now, thank you for bringing it.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to. So if we say 70% of Africans are farmers, have we thought about that a large chunk of that 70%, more than 95% of that 70% are just smallholder farmers?
Exactly, but you also have to understand that, again, 70%
and that
of
those smallholder farmers,
again, you also have to understand that
enough to feed
you have to understand that the farmers that feed most of the world, 70% of them come from a family of farmers, right? This is something that they do as a family.
That are not smallholder farmers.
It starts with subsistent farming, and it goes into that. So we don't even have a way of scaling that in Africa. That's our major problem. Ability to scale to the next level. That's where the problem lies. And that's why a lot of people would say, I mean, even when we were talking about the last topic, I think a lot of people said we must prioritize private and public partnerships instead of just collecting loans. Like what happened in what's the state again? Niger State with Dangote. So again, we have to have access, the farmers have to have access to scalability. In the Western countries, they do, but not so much here in Africa.
Okay, I'm still on you. It's easy for them there in the West because they are open to collaboration and partnerships. But here in Africa, we have a mentality of my own. It's ours. So now how do you get Okeke and Okafor to get their lands together and farm bigger?
I mean, there's a breakdown in communication somewhere, and also there's also the thing that a lot of countries have allegiance to Western powers.
Okay.
Again, I would say this, if, say for example, South Africa and Nigeria wanted to partner on something, and then China swoops in for a reason, who do you think Nigeria is going to follow?
Okay, now for that particular answer, let me come to you.
No, but who do you think? It's right on the money, it's right there.
First of all, you asked him whether he believes transportation is actually the major problem. I do not believe transportation is a major. I think insecurity is number one.
Yeah, there's that.
Because whoever thought that we'll wake up to an era whereby farmers will be paying bandits for protection? Tax. Whoever, did you ever dream you would wake up to this kind of era?
No.
So I feel, well, World Bank, because yes, was it not just yesterday they were saying increase tariff and we'll give you this. World Bank is known for that. They come out with these, policies, these
Are you saying this particular report that they've come out with is a precursor to a narrative or something that is coming?
No, I won't say that, but I'm just picking holes. I'm saying it's not 100% true.
Okay.
Insecurity tops it over transportation. Just this morning, or was it yesterday, Priya and I were discussing about transportation concerning food in Africa and all that. We were talking about and Priya was talking about how to make the roads connectivity, how to develop interconnectivity for our roads, especially the farmers in the rural areas where the roads there are not, there's so much dilapidated and all that. Yes, it is part of the problem, but I think the major problem is insecurity. If we're able to fix that, I think it will reduce by 50%. Yes, transportation is still there and some other, factors.
Can I also say something just for clarity?
Go ahead.
When you say transportation, I think it's the whole the
whole logistics
part. Whether it's bad road, whether it's insecurity, whether people's food are getting stolen on the road, whether they have to pay tax. I think it's kind of under, transportation as well.
Logistics. Okay, now, Priya, let's get this way. The World Bank is telling us that we should trade amongst ourselves. That is sounding strange coming from the World Bank. Now, Africa is importing well over 70% of rice. It's coming from outside this country. Now, for Nigeria is importing well over 95% of wheat. To make it bad, we're even importing from war-torn countries for wheat. And Africa has the potential of not importing wheat at all. And that goes for a lot of other, be it consumable crops, cash crops, every one of them. Why is World Bank focusing on logistics?
That's quite a tactical one. For World Bank, first of all, before I go to why World Bank is focusing on transportation, we need to answer one particular question. The question is the direction or the claims of World Bank about transportation or the lack of logistics impeding or hindering the value chain in agriculture. Is it verifiable? Is it true?
Yes, it's there.
Okay, fine. If it is there, then let's handle it. Now, why would the World Bank be doing that? They felt, like you rightly said, importation. First of all, two things you said that it sounds somewhat strange coming from the World Bank, given the antecedents and how they have been adjudged or criticized for trying to, being the financial advisor of CBN of different countries, most especially in Africa. And as a result of that, people feel that whenever the World Bank is doing this, there's an ulterior motive in that. So why is the World Bank doing this? As we speak, the last time that we have the president of African Development Bank and one of Nigerian billionaires in person of Tuli Lumelu and one other person, one other African representing one of the African countries, it should be from Tanzania, was talking about how it would be very, very important, or what we stand to gain if 1.4 billion people trades amongst themselves. When transportation will come in, we need to look at some form of the structure of the World Bank, who is currently bailing the cat, who is currently leading out that organization in the World Bank. And for political reasons, because you cannot completely divorce politics from business and economy and from issues that have to do with geopolitics. So if we look at that structure, then if we look at the powers that be and how they are going against each other, then we will know we want to tie a part of that conversation from that aspect. However, importing wheat or the explosion in price coming from wheat when Ukraine or when Russia invaded Ukraine and all of that is obvious, and it's very, very clear that Ukraine is part of the world exporter of wheat and flour, and the war in their particular country, gave rise to that anomaly. So, for us, if the World Bank gives a good advice, I think we should go with it.
Yes.
But however, we should also scrutinize it. But if you give advice that is contrary to the development of our economy, then we can equally speak up. Now, before we came on stage, we talked about how the World Bank, or even yesterday, said the government of Nigeria, right? The Nigerian government should put a tariff on
Alcohol,
tobacco.
Yes,
Sugar beverages, closed sugar beverages.
Sugar beverages, but we also know that these sugar beverages, most of them equally come out of the country. They are shipped into the country because most, if not 50% of manufactured products in this country come from outside the country. And most of them, agricultural products too.
Because they are also byproduct of agriculture.
Oh yes, of course. So if they do that, then if the World Bank is saying that, then that is a good advice for us.
And hope you know that particular policy is tied to a loan.
I
was going to say that.
No,
yeah?
of course.
Okay,
when you say tied to a loan, what loan and what is the condition?
Remove it, add money to it, tax it the more, impoverish the people the more. Now let's get to this.
I don't think that's the perspective of the World Bank.
Let's get this way. Now, for everyone out there, growing up, it was safer traveling the roads, and the government has to do more, adding to what they are doing right now to make the roads and the farms safe. Yeah. But growing up, when you apply places like Kano, Kaduna, all the way to the east, there are structures that always struck you. Sometimes you might not know what they are until maybe you go back to your primary school textbooks and you know, okay, those are silos. They were scattered in remote areas.
Yes.
They were there.
Yes.
But gradually they started dilapidating. People were not using them anymore and they just turned to abandoned property. To God be the glory, the last time I went to Abuja and just between Gwagwalada and Abaji, I started seeing silos again. So, are we looking forward to seeing this resurgence of storage facilities? If we say farmers should farm more, if we say, okay, let's turn them to communities for them to get more done, and we'll sort ourselves, they still need to store. Somebody needs to take off them. We are not just waiting for a Dangote to do it. What will you say to other billionaires, other people? It could even be people that have finished school. Get into this space.
I like that you brought up the storage facility again, because I like to look at the numbers, and this is even based on a study from Cornell University. About 37% of food, of agriculture is lost, is wasted, it's spoiled, and
after post-harvest.
Post-harvest, and that means there's a problem with the storage, situation.
That is for them. Ours is more.
And this is sub-Saharan Africa. There's 49 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. This amounts to $1 trillion. That loss alone.
A year.
this amounts to $1 trillion. So, you know, I'm on board with what you say. I love that you brought that up because it's a big issue, especially here in Nigeria. Back in the day, we used to have all those silos. They pile it all up, and we had it scattered across the nation. Now we don't. I haven't seen. I've been to Abuja. I did not say it. So I don't know.
I went to Abuja just last month. So
okay, that's right. Okay, fair.
I had to take a video. I had to just stop and take a video.
Because last time I was there, I didn't see none of that. I just saw a lot of people in different things. It's fine.
But one thing that you mentioned, the thing is, when agriculture, we all knew, was the mainstay of the Nigerian economy.
It's still the mainstay.
It's not, but it should. It could be.
It's still the mainstay.
No.
Why is it mainstay?
No. The thing is, it was the mainstay.
Who is buying these eggs?
It was the
people selling
mainstay.
eggs. Nobody's buying it now. They just complained last week that nobody's buying the egg. Who wants to buy the egg?
It was
so it's one thing to be into agriculture and another thing for it to mean something.
It was the mainstay of the Nigerian economy.
Of the Nigerian economy.
Until we discover oil.
Crude. Okay.
After we discover crude, a lot of people, including the government, attention to invest, diverted. And because it is called the oil boom and they equally have ulterior motives, they started moving. So that's a failure of leadership. It's a failure of leadership that, forgot that they had something they were living on until they discovered something else. So the action that they were supposed to take is to diversify the Nigerian economy and to make sure that the Nigerian economy, as at that point in time when we discovered crude, was standing on two legs. But we left the granite pyramids that we used to have and we ran into crude oil. Now, that actually led to the dysfunctional state of those facilities that you saw. And because after then, we've been seeing where both economic experts, politicians have been coming up and they now started the conversation of diversification and diversifying the Nigerian economy and the need for it and why the government has done its own little bidding, which though it has not done much, to create an enabling ecosystem for people to come and, participate. We've been seeing them.
Must it be government?
Well, if to create an ecosystem,
must it be government that will champion the people to get back to farm?
No, it's not the government. But however, the government have a role to play.
They have a major role.
It has a role.
I don't know if you get my
It has a role to play because when we talk about logistics, Olumide was making reference to security, and I don't want to start mentioning some of the gory incidents that happened some time ago, where we talked about where we saw rice farmers, and most especially in their 10s, in their 20s, in fact, even in their 30s. I mean, when I say 30, number of 30 of them were murdered in their farms by bandits and by terrorists, and we don't want to go there. And how people left their investment in the northern part of the country, and how some of them borrowed billions of naira, I beg your pardon, to facilitate this project, and how that has gone. Currently, as we speak, people, private entrepreneurs and private investors are beginning to see the prospect again in agriculture, because I personally know some farmers on individual basis, and we also know the larger farmers who are participating in this sector and how they are getting some result. And they know that because of the army of population, or the army of consumers that we have in the country, it is a venture that will profit both a large-scale investor and a subsistent investor, like Moyo rightly said. So what we need to do is the government to consolidate on its efforts to creating an ecosystem and an enabling environment to give out loans, single-digit profit.
Now you're going to loans.
Single-digit.
Some months ago, some years back, not too long, during the Buhari administration, loans were given to rice farmers to be specific. I am going there. Loans were given to rice farmers, majority of them from the north. And as these loans got to those that got them, we saw cases of them marrying extra wives.
Yes.
I'm not saying more wives, just extra wives, because they didn't need those particular
they already had enough.
Now, for the real people that really needed those monies, they didn't get it. So these are issues where it's not just about bringing out these monies and giving out. We need to really follow up and make sure that the giving bodies get these funds to the people that really need it. Then also, we also need to look at the issue of mechanization.
Okay.
There is so much the hand and the leg can do. There is so much the machete and the hoe can do. we need to develop our own mechanization, not just taking mechanization from the West, because we don't have lands the way they have lands. Lands on this side belong to 3, 4, 5, 6. There are boundaries all over the place. So we need that kind of mechanization whereby this will work for me, you, and the next person. And we can all come together and produce one single kind of crop. And not just lumping everything on one land and harvesting now gives issues. That way we will produce more. And with the advent of silos coming up, I pray we see lots more than we've seen. Tomorrow will be better than the security we're also talking about.
Silos.
I think, I just think that they're finally like sort of like a takeaway on all of this. I think it's very important that our government prioritize improvement of the logistics. This is what World Bank are talking about.
Definitely.
So they must prioritize improvement alongside increasing agricultural output. They should also foster a better regional collaboration with other our neighbors. Let's talk to
yes.
What can we do for each other? Not every time we should wait for somebody in the UK or somebody abroad in the Western countries to come to us. We should also incentivize private sector investment, as you said, storage with storage facilities, rural feeder routes, very crucial, and also cold chains. So that we can let's do this thing ourselves. It's not every time you collect a loan, you're going to beg somebody, you're going to do all of that. These are things that we can do. We have the capacity to do it again. It's just the will to do it.
Okay, so one aspect that people are going to hold the government responsible is this. The government talks about diversification of Nigerian economy and diversification of Nigerian economy. Now, for some of us or some other experts that you speak to and then want to give an advice to the government is that, okay, if you're talking about diversification of the Nigerian economy, our importation into this country, most of which constitute manufactured goods, and they are coming from outside the country, and you want to make Nigeria an industrialized, state. So you don't even need to preach about diversification of Nigerian economy, just make electricity available.
Thank you.
And things are just going to sprung up naturally. Now, the logistics that you're talking about, through the instrument of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Yes.
If African countries are going to take advantage of this, I think when former President Muhammadu Buhari said he wants to build a railway, is it from Katsina to Niger Republic?
A loan was taken.
A loan, fine, we know a loan was taken to want to build that public facility that holds a strategic, position, a strategic place when it comes to trade between one country and another, and for easy movement of these goods and services that will be that will benefit both countries.
I don't know. I feel like there were some diagnostics on that, and it felt like
Niger
was taking a lot more.
Of course,
benefit.
we collected money.
It was more like it wasn't exactly meaningful for Nigeria really at the moment.
No. See, there is no better time. Yeah. There is no better time, because if we are waiting for the better time, we will never get.
I don't know if I'm taking those to do charity. I'm not sure if
I would have preferred that we would have done that contract without taking a loan. However, even if we are going to take a loan to do it, if we are taking a loan to do it, then we must be able to make sure that that bidding process is not to make sure that it is swindled, but that the bidding process is given to a Nigerian company for us to keep the money back in our economy.
Nigerian companies don't build roads.
Great. Then see that disadvantage, because we do not have a company that builds railway stations at this moment. So we take the loan from foreign governments or from foreign multilateral agencies, and we take that money to facilitate that project back to foreign companies. So no part of that money is retained back into the economy, and that is injurious to Nigerian economy. And these are the things that we must advise government to do. Now, in building that logistics, if 30%, let's even assume that 30% of the produce, post-harvest produce in Nigeria farming or in Nigeria's agricultural produce get lost because of the lack of better roads to the rural communities for which most of major farmers are farming are located. We do not have storage, we do not have silos. Thank God to Niger State, who is currently building about 32 silos for that purpose because of its collaboration with Dangote. Great. If the government can take care of that, build an infrastructure to those places, if the government can put a halt or put a legislative framework to guide that process to make sure that, look, all these, the major income or the subsistence farming in terms of fish farming in the Niger Delta, most especially in River State, in Delta State, in Ondo State, and some other states in the southern part of the country, we're going to make sure that, look, because oil spillage is, destroying the fish farms in those areas. So by way of that, government is that you are not going to relocate these people, give them compensation for that, and reestablish them in that particular aspect of survival of their primary earnings, then it's going to be good for everyone. If the government is going to do that and make sure we are guided not only by executive orders, but also by legislative framework, then we'll be heading somewhere.
I wanted to say something. One of the safest means of transportation is train. And just like you rightly confirmed, Nigeria does not.
We can, but we are not as this moment.
Now, imagine we had a railway from Niger to Lagos or from Kano.
There is.
There is.
There is.
Working.
Working is a different.
But it is in existence.
It's
Functionality is another thing.
Now, I remember when I was in, when I was in secondary school, kids were brought to my school, but I never followed them from Lagos. We come through. If do you want to go by rail? Yes. So the school will take you to the rail station in Mina, and they will bring you back to Lagos. 3 days.
3 days. So
Excuse me, sorry, the train journey is 3 days.
Yes, that was
That's
then.
why it's not working. Nobody's doing that.
No,
but
but
then.
it was fun. That was then.
That was then.
That was
Compared to
it
now,
will be
it will be
fun.
more efficient.
So imagine the economic impact it will have. So, I mean, well,
But yes, the economic impact will be massive. However, it boils back to what I said. Do we have a local company that is, into this business of
If the local
laying out
company, if
new
the local
facts?
company, if we even have one
Because-
and the local company bids, would they get it?
No, they have to get
interest
it because by way
It has to do with government policy.
It
If
has to do
government
with- that is why I talked about
government say
legislative
Nigeria
framework.
first.
Yeah.
China didn't wake up one day and start building rails.
yes.
They made mistakes.
Exactly.
They corrected.
I
They
agree,
built on
yeah.
it. So if the government says we are going to look for local content and get our people to do this, then we will do it. And that is the way forward. There are Nigerian companies. If they don't do it or you hold them responsible, they will fix it. For agriculture,
They're not running anywhere.
for agriculture, it doesn't matter the kind of tie you wear or the shoe you wear or where you go to eat at the end of the day or who you toast. You will eat. So now, it doesn't matter what your bank account is or the doctor or PhD in front of your name or a prof. You will eat. So let's all get involved, whether at the production level or post-production level or adding value to it. Be you in government, be you the follower, and we'll get better at it. We can't just keep complaining when our hands are not dirty. This is still Souq Business Landscape. We will take a very short break. We'll return to our stories, and we want to hear from you. Go to Souq TV, Souq News TV. Go there and join this conversation. Send us a message, and you will be reading from us, not too short a time from now. Don't go anywhere. SBL will be right back. Welcome back. This is Souq Business Landscape. This next story we are taking is a public service announcement, and we want to keep you informed so that you will take actions and help the next person. There has been a deadly diphtheria, yes, you heard me, outbreak in Mbutu community in Abombise local government area of Imo State. Now, this is there has been temporary closure of schools, disrupting academic activities and alarming parents. Though the exact number of child fatalities remain unconfirmed, local authorities reported several deaths just days after the disease surfaced, prompting urgent public health concern. Now, the local government and the state, they are at it. Also, the World Bank I've also sent a team to Imo State, the Imo State Ministry of Health also, and the local health workers, they have been deployed. As we speak, people there are taking caution. Now, why are we saying this? Diphtheria is not just something that is common. It's it's one of those childhood diseases. And for children, for infants, they get to vaccinate them. But it's communicable. Sometime towards the end of last year and early part of this year, there were also cases of diphtheria in Lagos.
Yes.
And some lives were lost. Now, we are not trying to scare you, but we're only trying to make you to know that, hey, keep your environment clean. The Harmattan is gone, but rain is coming with a lot of cold and a lot of things in the air.
A lot of flooding and stuff.
So take care of yourself. Kind of symptoms you get to see are sore throat, swollen lymph nodes,
coughing,
your neck area. For some people, coughing, difficulty in breathing, some form of thick membrane covering your nasal and your throat sides. And for very little kids, they just running fever and being restless. So if you have a child that has not been vaccinated, because it's very important, that have not been vaccinated, and you can't put your hands on what's happening, hey, take that child and head to the closest health center. So if you happen to be in Imo State, this is not time to spread any form of panic. Don't. Just try and make sure your child is vaccinated. It's not painful, it's not difficult. And this is the good part of it. As long as you're vaccinated, you have a high percentage of not contacting it.
Yes, and even if you do, the risks are very low. I mean, for some of the vaccinations, there's like 70% chance it doesn't even affect you. 97% chance it doesn't affect you. So I think every child should get the vaccination, that's for sure.
Okay, so the thing is, what bothers me is the number of people that have been affected. 25,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, and it calls for concern. I'm glad that the World Health Organization, which is part of the team, and the Imo State Health Ministry, which is the state arm of the ministry, is working in collaboration with the health organization, the World Health Organization, to tackle that. And also the Federal Ministry of Health also should step in. Yes, to make sure that because there's a participation of a multilateral agency, there's a participation of a subnational government, there should be a participation of the central government, of the federal government, either by way of fund, either by way of assistance, by way of providing medical personnel, or deploying some form of equipment to consolidate what they already have on ground to take care of people as large as 25,000 children. And of course, if you say 25,000, the tendency that since it's communicable disease, the tendency that it would have been spread to some other part of the town, of that local government, or maybe an adjoining local government could be very, very possible. So we could have a number to contain this person and to nip in the bud any tendency to get it out. Now, of course, the best way, I'm looking at the best way to manage the process. And because if you shut down schools, it's good because they will stop gathering.
Yeah.
Okay, but so when they stop gathering, the health officials going to move around.
Yeah, definitely. Just go house to house.
House to house.
Yeah, and we need to bring back stuff like that.
I was thinking probably he asked them to come to school and they all come and
that's
vaccinate everybody before they go home.
That's a life.
From a medical perspective, that doesn't look at
that's a no-no.
It's a no-no. Yes, so the government should continue to, and it's I think because from the take-home we had after the advent of COVID-19 was that either it's at a subnational level or at the federal level or a continental level, that to some extent we have developed an extra muscle to tackle some of these diseases that might sprung up any point in time because of the emergency that COVID-19 came with and the global collaboration that we had, reaching out to other parts of the world that complemented individual efforts in the way that, and I think we had.
Also, I think this figure 25,000, how was it determined? Because you also need to do contact tracing, because this 25,000, you need to know those who have been in contact with this 25,000. So it definitely might exceed 25,000.
And it's possible it might not be up to 25,000.
It's possible. So how do we contain this, and how do we make sure it does not reoccur? Because this is not the first time we're hearing diphtheria. I would have suggested an emergency state of emergency in that particular state, because this is...
Apart from the state of emergency, for the community itself, we should be seeing something like a quarantine zone.
Thank you.
Where we just try to tell them, hey, don't get scared, you're not dying, just stay where you are and get better. Then for the federal government, almost 100% of the vaccine projects is federal government, then states now come, then local government. So it comes from federal down to the state. For the state and the federal government, this is when we need to see that mass deployment of health workers, service health workers, be it from the state, be it from the local government.
With protective gears.
It's not that into that particular vicinity, and let's see mass vaccination.
Yes.
Then also for the state and the federal government, we should see a form whereby those that are in the hospitals right now, let's take the bill off them. It makes it easy for people not to worry about the cost of treatment. So if you have it already, or if you're scared that you're in the hospital, hey,
the community
let's provide
it to make them more receptive to treatment.
Yes,
let's provide
let them stay there for as long as
let's
actually
provide
possible.
that.
But I also think that we should, because most of this is post-mortem, pre-mortem, I think the major thing, because we must also take into, for perspective, even according to WHO, our vaccination rate is very low. It's very
It used
low.
to be high before.
Yeah, it used to be.
used
Like,
to-
I used to
it
wake
not-
up in the morning and I
not
see
just
those women with
high.
their bags with
Yes.
the cloths. I don't see them anymore. I don't know if
They still from-
but I don't see them as
It
often
used to
as
be
I
very
used to.
high. Now,
It used
this
to be very
is
high.
where national orientation come in. Because National Orientation Agency used to be very good at it. You wake up in the morning and that's one of the first jingles you're hearing on radio.
Yes.
It's there on TV. You see the
Yes.
stickers everywhere. And
If you notice, we're much better at national orientation before than today. Back then, I used to hear family planning bikini every time I turn on TV. For some of the HIV, they did series. What are we doing now?
By the
First of
time
all,
the
who's-
jingle is coming
who's running
out,
that
your
place?
mother is closing your ears. But they'll still keep saying it. So this is where we need everybody to put their hands down, their heads down, and let people be informed. Information is key at this particular point. So for those in Imo State, hey, please don't travel.
Our hearts are with you.
Stay and get
Yes,
better.
don't travel.
Yes,
Very
we are begging you, don't
Very
travel.
important. I beg of you.
Stay there and get better. If your child is not feeling fine, hey, just a few days. It's a bacterial infection, and antibiotics will knock it off early. And if you traveled there, please,
Stay there too. Don't come back.
if you've come, for
Don't
those
come
that
back.
have come,
Submit yourself.
and come, please signify and let the health workers
Okay,
know.
fair.
It's better we keep this isolated so that we don't get to spread this, and it doesn't turn to something that is going beyond Imo State. Thank you very much. Remember, pass the message and the news around and stay healthy. Now let's go to our last story for today. That is where we want to hit. The United States Secretary of State, United States of America, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he has ordered that suspension of student visa processing, signaling intensified scrutiny of international applicants' social media profile. Forgive me for those that like posting anything. Now, your social media profile is very important. An internal cable confirmed on Tuesday instructing embassies and consulates to halt new students and exchange visa appointments until new guidelines are issued. This move marks a significant shift in visa policy under President Donald Trump's administration, which has adopted a tough stance on foreign student entry. International students have long been a major source of funding for United States universities, but recent actions such as visa revocations and attempts to bar top institutions like Harvard University from enrolling non-American students have raised concerns about the economic and academic impact. The cable suggests the pause in processing may be temporary, but U.S. missions are already battling heavy backlogs, which could delay autumn admissions and disrupt revenue streams for schools. State Department officials emphasize that the goal is to ensure all applicants are thoroughly vetted for security and intent. Secretary Rubio recently confirmed revoking thousands of visas since January, primarily targeting students linked to pro-Gaza activism. Now you know. The administration's position is that the enhanced screening aligns with broader foreign policy interests, though critics warn it could undermine U.S. higher education global competitiveness. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now we are here. What say ye?
Well, I think you rightly said it. It was related to Gaza. There was a protest.
Several.
Yes, in Palestine, and that was part of the reasons why this policy or initiative was brought by. But And the fact that, yes, your social media will be scrutinized. That's, some experts have said that it's an infringement.
That's the first place they are going to. Who
But you
are
can't
you?
blame them.
Who are you behind this mask?
You can't blame them, because I remember I think it was last year, with the advent of the new terrorist group, La Kurawa, they were recruiting people on social media for 1 million naira on social media. So,
Why didn't I say it?
well,
Thank
So-
God you didn't.
You said?
Thank God you didn't.
Who told you?
so
I would have made a whole lot of money and we still
I'm not doing anything.
and I think their major concern is security. They're
Of course,
trying
it's
to
definitely.
scrutinize people coming into the country, and Trump is really heavy
Okay.
on that. And so, but the only issue I have is an infringement on people's privacy, and so, but definitely,
To what extent? Once you post something on social media, is it private? Is it private again?
I think it is private because that's why you have followers. It's not like...
But you just posted it. It's a social media platform.
Yeah, but that's why you have followers, that people you follow who can see your posts.
But you know-
But it's
and
no longer
also, I
private.
know what you're about to
It's no
say,
longer
your For You page and all of that. That's based on algorithm. It's people who like similar things. So it's not like a random person is just going to see my post.
Okay.
Right?
Moyo,
Let me
if
give you a typical
Mhm.
example. If I just post unilaterally,
I will not see it.
Hold on, death to blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
and I come to work in your workplace, and you check up people's social media, and you just see, okay, death to, will you employ me?
Obviously not, because now I know that you have a murderous tendency.
even now, most companies would ask you to drop your social media
Yes, they do
handles.
that.
And they'll get to find who you are,
Who you are.
behind the mask.
Again, but it's also, what if I have like 5 different... some people have burners and they have this and that. So I don't know, I just feel like...
You know, you are dealing with the State Department.
Well, then they should not ask me. They should find out. Then.
They will
Don't
definitely
stress
find. They don't even
anybody.
need to
They
ask.
don't need to ask me then. Don't stress me then.
Okay, now Priya, let's twist this a bit. Now these are Republicans. Do you think the Democrats will do this?
To vet into people's privacy?
Yes.
Oh,
I tell you,
first of
well,
all-
it depends. If you call it privacy, that's also controversial. Do you think they will go this far of saying, no, we are not bringing you in because of your alignment?
No, what do you mean by alignment?
Alignment, your political
principles,
views.
your
Your
political...
Political views, yeah.
Well, the Democratic Party, of course, they are more liberal in their policies and the way they allow people to come into their country, which is one of the heavy criticism that the current president had against them. And you could see he's angrily talking about that, and he's calling the former president names for taking up a policy that brings people, criminals, and prisoners into the United States, and he want them out. I want them out. Give them $15,000. Oh, no. Don't give them
$8,000.
$15,000.
No, that was,
By the time we get you and put them into prison, question them, feed them for a few days, and we are able to confirm that they came in illegally, and we have to get them out. By the time they take them out, they realize they've spent about $15,000 or $17,000. I'm like, oh, and we've taken out more than 100,000 illegal immigrants. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot.
Okay, so you know what? We're going to leave you to come by yourself. Just come by yourself and we'll give you $1,000. But for the liberals, for the Democrats, I don't think they will want to do that. Because currently, as we speak, even people within the Republican Party are against this stance, because there are cases in court talking about, look, there's a child somewhere that is 3 years old, and the parent or the mom and the dad came into the country with illegally documents. So are you now going to ship the parents out, and you're going to leave the 3-year-old to themselves? And so there's a legal battle concerning that. But let's look at it from the economic perspective. In 2023 to 2024 academic year, foreign students contributed nearly $44 billion to the United States economy, and it includes spending on tuition fees, housing, transportation, and expenses, and they equally provided about 378,000 jobs for the United States economy. So if you're going to take that out, the parliament are going to be looking at you, most especially those that we have in the Democrat Democratic Party will be looking at you and they'll be asking it, okay, so what are you going to, if we are going to be making this annually, $44 billion, we have a budget to fund, Mr. President, so what is going to be the alternative? Where are you going to replace this $44 billion? We are looking at a tendency where we have people
$44 billion and the job
and the job they do. The job they do. Get those 378,000 people that do those odd jobs out of the United States because they equally pay tax to the government. Yeah. Now, if you get them out, the government is going to lose more than $44 billion. And these are the arguments they are going to place to Parliament and the current administration that, look, hey, where are you going to, close this gap? And if you do not have a substantial where you're going to close it, of course, they can come out and say, hey, we put in tariffs on most of the goods coming into this country.
Those are tariffs?
Those are tariffs. So we have something...
These are human beings?
No, of course, we are going to supplement. Because, of course, the argument that will coming from the opposition political party is not going to just go around the human aspect. They're going to be telling you there's a gap you need to close economically. Yeah. And the funds that is coming to the United States of America, there's a job line that also needs to be closed. So who is going to pay for all this? If your tariff will suffice and it's going to stand, if it's not going to put us at loggerheads and cost us the hard-earned foreign diplomatic relationship that will form with some of our close allies, then we are going to yield to that. But if we are going to be in the disadvantage and we stand in the position of losing $50 billion, I'm sorry, Mr. President, we're really going to have a contending period of time in the chambers and parliament.
Okay, now Donald Trump has 4 years to go. He just came in. Earlier, before now, he had this particular policy where he said every foreign student that graduates well in the state should stay.
Citizen.
And they should make the person stay.
So that's a must stay.
No, it's not a must.
It's not a must. He said every foreign student that does well
came out topmost in your class,
that the government should make the person stay. Now you're coming today and Marco Rubio is saying, let's vet. Let's slow down on foreign students. Are we not seeing a kind of contradiction here? Or are we just looking at it from the security part of it?
I think it's just the security part of it that they are looking at. They are not saying the whole thing is going to be scrapped. They are just saying, let's streamline.
Let's vet.
Let's vet those that are coming in. But also, if you look at it, most universities, especially the public ones, are the ones that are going to lose because they rely heavily on international students' tuition fees, which is now used to subsidize programs and scholarships for the local ones.
Okay. So that is the money we are losing on this side.
Exactly. Well, they call it brain gain right now. It's not more brain drain.
Okay.
So
let me get to Moyo. Now, Moyo, Harvard and Princeton.
Yeah.
In quotes, they say it's one of the best. It's one of the oldest and one of their elite schools there. But now, those were also grounds for a whole lot of anti-Semitic and a lot of the protests that happened. And they've taken strong stance on them without saying directly that this is why we are doing this. But we know that the Republican Party are poised in support of a particular group.
Yeah.
And these places of learning were not towing that line.
Yes.
What advice would you be giving to both sides, both the government and the university sides?
What advice should I be giving to the government?
Both the university side, because the government is also pulling out funding from them.
Yeah. And I mean, we all saw the Twitter back and forth between the president and the Harvard University, where he sent the letter and they corrected the letter grammatically. So I mean, it's not anything I can say. Everybody's going to stand on their principles, and I love it. That's why I love the Americans so much. And
their democracy.
Their democracy is very principled. And everybody should stand on what they truly believe in. Personally, I feel if US doesn't want you to come, we have options in Australia, we have options in Canada.
Why are we not having options in Ife, having options
you have options in Hudegbe. You have options.
What's that?
In Ghana.
What's that?
It's in the Republic of Benin.
No. Please, can we leave Benin out of this for now?
Okay, fair. I know why you said accreditation issues. Yes. Fair. Okay, so Ghana.
You have Ghana.
You have Ghana.
What happened to Ife?
UNISA.
What happened to Akoka?
Yeah, we have them too. So there are also options again. Because who am I to say? Who am I to tell the American people not to? Even though I know it's a bit rooted in racism, it is their prerogative. So who am I to tell them not to vet everybody that's coming into the country? If we are so committed to traveling there, then we have to play by their rules. That's what it is.
Why you
give
play,
unto Caesar what is Caesar.
Why you play by their rules? Now let me get to you. We get to see people post a lot of things on social media, majorly here in Nigeria, and they just get away with it. No aftermath, no responsibility.
E.g. Speed Darlington.
You didn't hear that.
No, I didn't actually.
Now, do you think that in time to come, what we are dropping in that social media space is going to count?
Okay, there's a story I heard about someone who wanted to contest because he was quite famous. Because I heard a story from a third party, I can't really get the name of the person, but it was in the United States. He wanted to contest for the position of the president. He was a famous person. He had lived some kind of life that he has put some private engagement in public domain. And they allowed him because he was quite famous and he's like just making, he's coming up and all of that. It was one of the dailies in the US that posted his image of when he was going out randy, when he was like a randy person.
And he was
putting on glasses.
Wild oaths.
Yes, putting on glasses down to very pants. Then
No description.
No description. Then he was dancing with ladies who are equally dressed in the same way because they went swimming and no.
In a compromising position.
What's compromising about
so when they put that, they just made a post about that look, this sort of person wants to become the president of the United States of America. You know,
and that career ended.
In fact, that ambition.
So American president cannot swim again.
No, see, that's not it. See, there's a position that you're contesting for, no matter how democratic and how secular that environment is. Because
can you bring this description down?
So the thing is, when you make posts in social media, I think these days people are more careful, except for people who don't see themselves amounting to something big in the coming future. Because people will hold you to account. Even some of our politicians who have made comments running their mouths, party manifestos, I will make sure that you have power for 8 years. I will make sure that your children, your great-grandchildren don't pay school fees. And
did you really go there?
Then you now come.
Is this reported speech?
No, but did you really go there?
Or that I will make sure that there is no electricity, will never blink in your life.
Yeah.
Then you now get into the saddle of power. And probably you're not even on the saddle of power. You're criticizing the current government that, look, you promised X, Y, Z, but look at what we have. This is complete balderdash. Some people who just go and fish out your dealings on social media or something you've said some time ago and just put it on the public domain. So look at the human being that said X, Y, Z. So for the United States government, they feel that's one of the routes
for Nigerian government
to go. Okay, no, I'm going back to US.
No, don't go back.
I'm going back to
stay
US.
here.
So for the United States government, they felt that okay, because the current target of this administration is that look, we have too many criminals that came into the United States illegally that are not well documented, and as it is now, because of the United States policies that this current president took while he was president then and now. And some of the things that came to limelight when the Democrats were president, when they were in the governing saddle, he felt that look, if we're going to make sure that we check your social media, I don't think they are encroaching into a private. We are talking about national security.
Okay,
and if we're talking about national security, your own little corner of saying that, oh, this is my privacy. If this is your privacy, then please don't come to the United States.
Energy. I respect that.
Well, in rounding off, there was this particular music star. I'm sure you're aware. He was aware. He made some racial statements, and he was dropped by major companies. Just a particular.
Kanye West.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now,
then in closing, let me land. In closing, I would just say the internet never forgets, so be careful.
Be careful out there. Now, security is what we shouldn't play with. We get to see, in quote, a lot of security concerns, non-state actors in Nigeria forming and showing themselves up in security on the social media platforms. Our security people should be able to get and pick them up, because if you can pick those that criticize the government, you should be able to find them.
Yes.
We have no excuse on that particular one. So remember diphtheria, keep yourself safe. World Bank, thank you very much for the logistics story. And our president, we wish you the very best. Remember, this is SBL, and we want you to be part of this conversation. So go to Souq News TV. Let's get to hear from you. How has SBL affected you? How has it made your day? And how can we get better? So go there and tell us. Let's talk. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks, and it's been my pleasure being part of this particular program today. You can follow me on all social media platforms. I see GUVNORC Governor. And I have this very handsome man here, and you will get to hear their closing. Moyo.
Thank you so much, Chooks. Moyosore Adebiyi. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Moyo Lagos. It's been great being on the show with you guys.
Yes, and I am Oyinpreye Krumale. You can follow me on Instagram at Oyinpreye8 and on X at Oyinpreye5.
It's been an impactful and insightful discussion. Thanks. Let's do this again. I am Olumide Sokoya. You can follow me on Instagram at Media Juggernaut.